bar stool. Kinda short and kinda square. Through the foam in his mustache, his voice filled the air. Talking about a state of mind, son. Talking about the state of Jefferson. It's a wave on a dusty road. It's a logger's heavy load. It's a cattle on the hill. It's a range full of thrills. It's a way of life settles in your soul.
Settles in your soul. Yes, it does. It settles in your soul.
Amen, brother.
Welcome, everybody. This is the maiden voyage of Jefferson's State of Mine, M-I-N-E, broadcasting live
On Mountain Dog Media.
to the world. I'm here with my partner, Win Carpenter. How you doing, brother?
Good, and you, Terry?
Doing good. We have a trusted producer behind the beautiful glass we have in front of us, Eli, and we can tease him all day long and he can't say anything.
He can't respond. He can cut us off, but
He can. He has control. He's nodding his head. He's got control.
He does.
He does. Oh, there we go.
We can hear him, but
nobody else can. Yeah, we don't have a button here, folks.
No
which
red
means,
button.
Yeah, no red button, which means we can, I guess, use a colorful metaphor here and there, huh?
Probably.
Yeah, sometimes that's effective.
Effective and appropriate.
Anyway, I digress. We're here today to talk about this new program we have. We also do this on a radio station weekly on Sunday at 9 a.m. But the important thing is to talk about our liberty, to talk about the Constitution. But really what we want to do is we want to discuss solutions. Right. And I think that what we'll do is give you a little background of the state of Jefferson, what the thought process was behind that. Just give you a little background for folks that don't really know anything about that. Mm-hmm. Basically, this movement on the state of Jefferson started in 2013. Mark Baird, who's the founder of the state of Jefferson and the main spokesman, gave me a call. Didn't really know him. After an hour, I felt like I'd known him forever. It's amazing how someone can talk about things complicated like a constitution or complicated like liberty. At least it sounds complicated, but make everything so understandable.
Very simple.
So the idea was to create a smaller state because we didn't have representation in the state of California. In California, we have one senator for every million people and one assemblyman for every 500,000. Now, that is, 300 times worse than Texas?
And that's state number 49.
Oh, that's right.
Uh-huh.
So when you stop and think about that, how do you have a situation where your voice can be heard?
Right.
Now, the understanding of how the process works is pretty simple. When the founders created the federal government, and remember that was a creation, that was a compact, and we'll talk about that in future episodes, what a compact is as opposed to a contract. But the point being is that when the state was founded, we only had 417,000 people.
In the entire state.
In the entire state. We had, in 1862, at 417,000 people when our Constitution was, pretty much capped.
Yeah.
They capped the Senate and they capped the Assembly at 40 senators and 80 assemblymen, similar to, in the federal government, the Senate and the House of Representatives, because each state has that particular body in their state representation. Now, at that point, we had probably one senator per county. That was pretty safe to say at that point.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. And so we had a situation where people could actually have their voices being heard at the state level. Now, during that time, the state began to grow, and as it grew, and as it grew, and as it grew, the Assembly and the House and the Senate never grew. However, the judicial system
grew like crazy.
It did. There were 50 judges in the state of California with the 80 assemblymen and the 40 senators.
From the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then, by, I'd say 2018, we now have, we did have at that point around 2,500 judges.
You go from 50 to 2,500?
Yeah. And how many assemblymen?
Assembly?
80. And how many senators?
40. So why did the judicial system grow and the legislative branch not?
Good question. Why are we capped?
Yeah.
So at that particular point, the rural areas began to, as we moved into the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the rural areas ended up having less representation.
Yep.
So their voice wasn't really heard. And I know that anybody that lives north of Sacramento certainly understands that. Now, what we propose is a smaller state. What we propose is apportionment that is going to be equal to the population. In other words, if we had one senator for every county, like we used to have,
Right.
and then we would have one assemblyman for every 5,000 people,
Sure.
now we would have a situation where when you want to have your voice heard or you want to talk to your assemblyman, you'd be easy to reach out to.
Well, and they'd be local.
They would.
They wouldn't be from another county. They would be from, most likely, from your own county because of the way the population is in all the counties.
That's a good point. Yeah. So as you look at this and you see a situation where we could have representation, we have to understand that as we go on with these episodes and these shows, we have to understand that we're going to be looking at a way to solve the problem.
Right.
And everything falls under three categories. The first category it falls under is representation.
Yeah, without representation, you have nothing. You have no way of doing anything that you need to do. So that's what you need to do from the start.
So everything falls under representation. And the second thing is the Second Amendment, because that protects everything else.
Right.
So now we have a situation where we can protect things. The founders understood that the Second Amendment was there to protect us, not from the deer or the rabbits or the squirrels,
right,
who may have a coup, like many of the Democrats say about, well, it's about hunting. Well, I don't really see, look out for that rabbit.
And not everybody that has a gun hunts.
That's very true.
Not everybody. I mean, look at, a lot of folks that maybe live in more urban areas, they have guns for protection, but are they hunting? Most likely not. I mean, there might be a handful of them that do reach out and go out into nature and do the hunting, deer, duck, whatever, but they're not hunters.
Yeah, and when you stop and look at the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment was written at a time where we were a free country.
We were just coming out of a war, a big one. And so for protection, we had guns, and they wrote that in there so that we could have guns, retain them, and have them at our disposal 24/7, anytime we want it, anytime we need it.
And the tyranny that we were afraid of was tyranny from our own government.
Absolutely.
Because we just won a war with the largest, strongest nation in the world as far as militarily, their power, their might. They controlled the seas, tremendous armies, and we had defeated them.
Because the government was controlled by the monarch.
Right.
So that's why we came to be, our states, our country. That's how we came to be.
And the understanding of a state, too, which we'll get into, we're broadening out everything in this particular episode, but we'll get into things a little more intricately. When Thomas Jefferson talked about a state, he said the state of Virginia likened to the state of Great Britain, Spain, and France. So what's the definition of a state?
Country.
And that's what we are, is countries that have united.
Each state is its own simple separate entity.
Easy for you to say.
That was easy to say, but they are their own country, united as a country of united countries.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's a tongue twister, but that's what they are.
It is. And so, we look at the Constitution, and this is important because it falls into what we're doing in our state. A contract basically is between two legally sovereign citizens.
Right.
Or sovereign people. A compact is between legally sovereign governments.
Right.
So what we have in the Constitution is a compact. In the Constitution, 13 states got together. They made this compact, and they created the federal government.
Right.
So the federal government is the creation of the states.
Because they knew they would be stronger unified versus independent.
Yes. Well, we had to have figure out a way to have universal money, have trading across the states, and to protect ourselves from foreign enemies.
That's right. Yep.
So when you look at the idea of the founders and the process of which they follow this. The compact is a very important thing because, again, the federal government doesn't control us. We control the federal government. A lot of people talked about their constitutional rights. They're not constitutional rights. They're God-given rights that are protected by the Constitution.
Right.
The Constitution binds the government, not the people.
Exactly. And that's the thing, the biggest thing we have to make sure people understand. It is putting restrictions on the government, federal and state. It puts restrictions on them because the sovereign citizens are that, sovereign. So it's not going to restrict us, we the people, it's restricting the government.
You know, and that's the thing. The federal government is a product. It's a product of a compact between sovereign legal governments.
Right.
And we've lost our way. Now, a lot of people say, well, gee, you know, the federal government owns this, they own that, they do this, they do that. Well, in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 specifically states that the jurisdiction of the federal government is within 10 square miles. Now, at the time, it wasn't Washington, D.C.
All right, it's New York, yeah.
That's right. So if you're looking at 10 square miles, that's the jurisdiction. However, the federal government can erect forts and magazines and other needful buildings at what? The session,
Ports,
and magazines. Yeah.
And people need to understand what those are. You know, forts for fighting, the ports for trade for the ships, and magazines are for housing ammunition and arms, guns, weapons.
Yes, and other needful buildings.
And
that's at the session. Now, the word session, capital C-E-S-S-I-O-N, means contract.
Right.
And it means an agreement between people. Mm-hmm. Because, in other words, you're ceding this to somebody.
People are governments.
Exactly right.
Right.
And so what happens is that we let them. That's why the federal government owns these different things, and because we let them. We allow them to do it with a session, with a contract. And so, again, the states are sovereign, but they don't act like it, do they?
No.
So what we're looking at is a sovereign state, getting back to what we were talking about originally, about representation. And that is, we need to have something where the voices of the people are heard. You can't do that with 500,000 people for every assemblyman and 1 million people for every senator. You know, and as we look at that, the third thing that we have to understand is that once we do elect these people, we've got to give them proper apportionment. Now, what does the word apportionment mean? It means how you divide something up.
Right.
And so if you have apportionment to where the person who you elect can do their job, because there's 5,000 of you. So if there's 20 of you in a Walmart and you run into this guy or gal and you say, hey, man, we need to get this done.
Right.
Your voice is going to get heard.
Right. And they're more apt to be able to go take care of that situation, whatever it might be, because then they're not going to be in conflict with another area of, say, your county or the entire state for other sovereign citizens who they may represent, like we have now. I mean, that is the problem for our representatives right now. They're conflicted, ideally, with what they should be doing, but we know that they're just not doing what they should do. That's separate. But I mean, it removes the conflicts is what it does. If they're representing, say, 5,000 people in a area, those people are all most likely going to have the same desires and concerns about whatever the issues might be. And so then that representative can act on that and move forward and make sure things get taken care of. Something like, say, a water board or something like that, a water district board, things like that can be taken care of quick and easily, but maybe not. I don't know. So those are the kind of things that we have to look at and get the representation back to the people so that the people can move forward with whatever it is that needs to be addressed.
And as we look at this broad spectrum of what we're talking about here today, you look at a situation like local government. Mm-hmm. In the counties of California, the counties are lucky to have 15 to 20% of the money, the tax money and the tax revenue, to use on things that they believe in the county that needs to be done.
Right.
There's discretionary spending and there's mandatory spending. Mm-hmm. Mandatory spending is the state dictating to the counties
what they can spend it on.
Yes, sir.
And it always comes with huge strings attached.
Always.
Always. Every single time.
I know some counties are as much as 87% of the money that's returned, the tax money that's returned, is mandated already by the state on where it's supposed to go.
And the tax money that's returned is the money that's generated within that county.
Yes.
And in particular for us here in California, our counties collect the money through sales and everything else, taxation on property, whatever sources of taxes they can collect it on, fees, whatever, and then they send it to Sacramento, and then Sacramento decides, like you said, how it's apportioned back to the county to spend however they need to. Well, why don't we take Sacramento out of the loop?
Yeah.
Why don't we just do it the opposite?
Yeah.
Why don't we spend the majority of the money here in Shasta County for us and other counties neighboring, but keep it in our own county, and then whatever might be left over, we can send on to Sacramento.
Like maybe a 13% for the state and 87% for the county. Now here's
Once we have all our roads repaired and we have our schools running and we
Absolutely.
have everything else going and we have everything fixed the way it should be, then maybe we send it on.
and here's the kicker, folks. Discretionary spending is health and safety.
Yeah.
Discretionary spending is your fire department and your police department. That's discretionary. So to break this down into simple terms, mom and dad work all week, the kids are in school. It's mandatory spending to have food on the table so you can eat.
Right.
It's mandatory spending to keep your family warm. It's mandatory spending to have a roof over their head.
Right.
But it's discretionary spending to say, hey, we want to go to a movie.
Right.
Now, how can you, and have pizza. Now, how can you have that be the equivalent to discretionary spending when we're talking about health and safety? And folks, we know what the fires have been like in California.
Right.
And I will say this right now, because this show is going to be politically incorrect. We will, there is a saying that this happened during World War II with Franklin Roosevelt. I'm not a big Franklin Roosevelt fan, but this was something I think that is relevant to what we have to understand right now.
Right.
And that is that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. Things were a mess. And the Pentagon didn't really know what to do. The first thing that Roosevelt wanted to do, he wanted to go over and bomb Japan.
Right.
And there was a lot of rhetoric back and forth. Nobody knew what to do. Everybody sort of had their hands in their pockets. They were really confused. And all of a sudden, one of the staff walks into Roosevelt, and he walks into him, and he says, we have a submarine commander who has an idea for an attack on Japan. And what Roosevelt said was, I like submarine commanders. They haven't got time for bullshit,
There you go.
and neither do I.
There you go.
And I think that that's something we have to look at right now. We will not be politically correct on this program. We won't be profane unless that colorful metaphor fits. And I think in that case,
It did.
when Roosevelt said that, it certainly fit.
Right.
Now, the thing we have to realize here is that California can't be fixed. No. It cannot be fixed. You can't have... You want to tell them a little bit about 1964. Explain Reynolds and Sims to the folks and talk a little bit about that, because that's sort of where everything falls into place as far as what happened when we did have one senator per county.
Well, when we did have one senator per county, things worked better, if you will. Our population wasn't as much as it is here in California now. We're around 40 million. It kind of vacillates a little bit, but with the great exodus from California to Idaho and Montana, Tennessee, Texas, you name it, any other state, Nevada, any other state than staying in California. I truly don't know what the number is anymore. I don't know if anybody does. The census hasn't come out yet with its full report, so we don't know. Even if that's true, are they tracking the citizens of the state of California? Or are they tracking the invaders of California? So those are the kind of things you have to look at in total. But when we did have senators for each county, we did have better representation. Things were cleaner. It was better. Then all of a sudden they decided to go with the populace and stick with the populace and say that they needed more representation for more people in the cities. And they hit the urban trail. So like LA County has, and various counties down there, all collectively, well, not collectively, but LA County has about 15 representatives.
In the Senate?
In the Senate. Shasta County, well, our district anyway, which is 11 counties, is represented by one senator. So you look at that, we have one senator for 11 counties in the North State, but LA County has 15 representatives.
Yeah, they actually have 11, but the other 4
Are various counties
have various
that-
counties that they have parts of LA County.
Right.
That's such a great point. And that culminated in many, many cases up to Reynolds versus Sims, where Chief Justice Warren made made the decision, or excuse me, the opinion. Remember, the Supreme Court only has an opinion, and we'll talk about that in future episodes. But when that happened, what Warren said is rocks and trees can't vote.
Right.
So, hey, it's one man, one vote. Well, that turned us into a democracy, basically.
Right. And keep in mind, he was a former governor of the state of California. So he knew how to play the game, and he knew what he was doing, and he had already rubbed elbows and was part of the wine and cheese crowd from the days that he served as governor. So then when he became where he was as a Chief Justice, it turned everything around for California, and I don't mean for the positive either.
Yeah. So what happened is that we ended up with losing senators to where Los Angeles County ended up with 11. If you have a football game and you have 11-1, who's going to win that game? Well, maybe Tom Brady might, but but the point is that when you have 11-1, you're never going to have a situation where you're going to have representation in the state of California. It's absolutely impossible. It's impossible. California can't be fixed. There are 63 Democrats in the Assembly and 17 Republicans. In the Senate, there is, and that's a question mark on those Republicans, okay?
Right. Are they rhinos or are they actually conservative Republicans?
Good point, my friend.
Yep.
And in the Senate, we have 30 that are Democrats and 10, and again, is to Wynn's point, 10 that are Republican. So here's the other thing. To fix California, maybe you can keep that amount of representatives, which is ridiculous, but even if you try to do that, do you really think that LA County is going to give up 10 representatives to just have one?
No.
Because each county should have one.
Right.
At least. And so those are the things that we need to understand about apportionment. And, there's the thing where, let's just throw the bums out. Let's just throw those bums out. Well, if they can't, how are they supposed to do their job?
Right.
How do you do your job if you have to represent 1 million people?
Or more. In LA County's case, it would be more.
Absolutely.
Be more than 1 million.
Absolutely.
So they're going really extreme if we change that. So those are the kind of things that you really have to address. You have to get down in the dirt and figure it out.
That's right. And so the only way to bring about change and solutions, because we're going to talk about a couple of solutions, and we'll elaborate on these things in future episodes, but let's talk about solutions.
Well, one solution, a big solution, is going back to when California was first becoming a state. They talked about breaking it up then, just making it multiple states along the coast. That's what they wanted. This whole western coast state, they wanted to break up into multiple states. We don't know exactly how many, but they wanted to have multiple states. It made sense, but they were in a hurry because of what was going on politically in the country. They wanted to just get it done. So that's what they did. And they said even in some of the documents that they would do it later. Well, later has certainly come, and we're here trying to get that done. And we're not just saying we want to break away from California. We want California broken up all over so everybody else within California can do their own areas. We have worked with counties that are adjacent and contiguous with our counties to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as how far we want to go as far as creating our state. And so those are the kind of things you have to do. And it's not easy. It's doable. And that's what we want others in other counties that are not in the Jefferson territory to think that way and to figure it out and see if they want to do it.
So how do we connect those dots? We connect those dots very simply. Going back to what we were talking about earlier in the program, we have to have the power in the counties.
Right.
We have to have the power in the counties. The county is the local government which you actually can have hands on.
Right, and your board of supervisors in California, the county representatives are called boards of supervisors. Other states, they're commissioners or whatever. They have other names. But in California, they're called supervisors. And they have the legislative and executive responsibility for their county. So those are the kind of things, that's where the power is. And you have to get back to that so that you can get things cleaned up and turned around.
And again, getting back to the point of a state and the power of the states, and who really is in control is the states.
And the supervisors represent you and are supposed to interpose between you and the state. So when, you have a wild governor going off on the rails, or off the rails, the board of supervisors should stand up and say, no, we're not going to do that here.
And here's how they can do it. Article 20 of the California Constitution, and we're just talking California here, but Article 20 of the California Constitution is an oath of office.
Right.
Now, you're going to have somebody say, well, we take an oath to the California Constitution too. However,
Right.
Yep. In Article 3, Section 1 of the California Constitution, it specifically states that the state of California recognizes the Constitution of the United States as the supreme law of the land and is an inseparable part of that. So,
therefore, everything that contradicts the federal Constitution is null and void.
that's right. So the federal Constitution, the United States Constitution, trumps, no pun intended.
Trump, yes.
There is a pun intended. Trumps. It does trump the California Constitution.
Yep.
So a supervisor may say, well, we have to follow social guidelines. We have to follow, our social contract. What social contract?
I call BS on that.
Yeah, I call BS on that too. I mean, what social contract? I mean, what your job is to interpose. The only job of government is to interpose. The only job of government is to protect the rights of the sovereign. That's the only rights. That's the only thing that the federal government's installed for.
So a social contract is a socialist contract? Is that what that is? Because I've never understood that and haven't seen it anywhere. And is it in the Constitution?
Well, it's what one of our supervisors said.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what he was hanging his hat on.
So those are the kind of things that we're looking for. And you have to get down in the mud and figure this stuff out, and you have to do some research and have dialogue and read like crazy and understand what's what and connect the dots.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's kind of like, I remember way back in the Tea Party days. Oh gosh, 2009. Arlen Specter, who was a rhino, to say the least. I'll never forget a lady standing up, and this video went viral. And she stood up and she looked at Arlen. She was a mom, housewife, and she was shaking and she pointed her finger at him and she said, "You've just woken up a sleeping giant. We won't take it anymore."
Amen.
And that's because we have to understand something. Maybe go back to James Otis Jr., who's one of the first people, a patriot in the early 1700s, who would not comply.
Right.
It's human nature to look for a leader. It's just human nature. It's human nature to stay, where you're comfortable.
Right.
That lady was very uncomfortable, I'm sure.
She was way out of her comfort zone.
Way out of her comfort zone. And that's what it's going to take. We can't wait to say, well, when we get 10,000, when we get 1,000, when we get 200, when we get 500, we'll get something done. No, it's one person.
It starts with you, the individual.
Absolutely. So we have to become uncomfortable. And, it's sort of like, we've got the wrong training about the government. We've got the wrong training. We, the people, are the government, we've been taught, and our kids are being taught to be submissive, to submit to authority, to be compliant.
Well, the one big thing here in California in particular is that since 1962, they've been dumbing us down in the educational factories. In other words, we have not been getting our true civic lessons. We really haven't. They may have labeled it civics or whatever, but they have not. They being the education system, they have not been educating the sovereign citizens.
True.
And they're sovereign citizens when they are born. They're a sovereign citizen at that moment. When they go into the schoolhouse to become educated, the parents turn their children over to and entrust their children to the educational system to be educated. Mom and dad will do the moral and ethical things at home. That's their job. Keep them safe and all those other things. But the education, as far as the formal education, learning to read and write, learning what math and science and all the other things that come into play, and civics is just, if not more important than all the rest of it. It needs to happen. All these other things that are garbage that they're trying to teach the kids, or that they're actually teaching.
They are teaching,
is beyond repulsive. We need to teach the kids about civics so they know how to do the proper thing and how to stand up for themselves and for others around them that can't physically or are not able to stand up and fight for themselves. They need to be able to do that. And that's what we're talking about here. It's our moral obligation, not only to myself, but to you as a friend and to all the other people that we know, family, whatever, even our enemies. We have to stand up for them because of their ignorance. We need to stand up for them. So we need to do this. And it's sad that we've been dumbed down in our state in particular since 1962, 59 years ago.
Yep.
That's ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
So that's why it's taking all of us just time and time and time to go over all this stuff and educate people and do the research and understand things and connect the dots. I mean, there's a lot that we don't know, but there's a lot that we have learned. And we're sharing everything we can with everybody. That's why we're here. We want to share that so everybody understands. And it comes back to representation and apportionment and all the other things that you need to do.
Yeah.
Therefore, creating a smaller state that's more manageable, easy to govern, and be more cost effective to maintain. And we can live the lives that we choose to live within the territory of the Jefferson counties.
And that's well said, my good friend. When you look at this, the deal is that in the Declaration of Independence, in the Constitution, there's such great words. The word self-evident. I love that word because self-evident means that it doesn't need any proof.
Right. It's obvious.
The right to life, liberty,
Right.
and the pursuit of happiness, pursuit of property. Those particular things, also, Jefferson says a magic word in there. He said, among those rights. Okay, yeah. And so there's a lot of magical things that we look at that we sort of just pass over. God created man created society and government.
Every word was put in there for a purpose.
Exactly.
And you have to understand the true definition of the words. And if it's from the 1862 Webster's Dictionary, then get a copy, get online, whatever you need to do to make sure you truly understand it. Because that's the dictionary that was referred to when they wrote it.
So the power is always derived from the governed, not from Congress, and not from the Supreme Court, and certainly not from the president. As we look at our state, we're now in the process of recalling Gavin Newsom. And the importance of this it's absolutely, there's a lot of choices you can have. You can have, Larry Elder, Kylie, Cox, Caitlyn Jenner. You even I think there's a stripper that's, there's one guy who was wearing glasses going, pretty cool, huh? That's his statement.
Yeah.
So, the point is that we're looking for a governor, but that's a small portion. If we elect a governor, yes, we need to have somebody in there. A lamppost and pants is better than what we have now. But when we get somebody in there, the governor won't be able to do anything. If we have a Republican governor, the one thing he can do is veto these crazy laws that keep coming through. He can veto them. And if he gets overridden, he gets overridden. And of course, then he can go to the people. There was a guy named Donald Trump who did that. Mm-hmm. He went to the people. So if this governor's smart, whoever it may be that gets elected, that particular governor will be able to go to the people. The problem is we keep going, we keep throwing all this stuff, the power of the president, the power of the governor. Those are limited, folks. The legislative body of your state, the legislative body of your county, is where the power is.
The Board of Supervisors.
There you go.
Yep, it all comes back to home. It comes back to where you live. That's why you have to be actively participating in your local government. You go to those board meetings, do whatever you can to get to those board meetings. You sit, you listen, and most likely there is always a public comment section within the board meeting. Open public comment, you can get up there for 3 minutes or whatever your particular county has mandated or allows, because they always allow you to speak, right? No, you're their employer. Don't forget that. They work for you. If you're in a certain district, that board member that's representing that district is your employee. No two ways about it. They are your employee. You don't like what they're doing, tell them. You need to do a corrective action, you do it. And a lot of times, corrective actions are very uncomfortable. You're stepping outside of that comfort zone, and you want to make sure that you do everything right. And rally some team members around you to get this done. We have great group in our county doing exactly that. We're recalling supervisors here.
3 of them.
There are 68 recalls going on in the state of California.
It's a record.
And Shasta County has 3.
Mm-hmm.
Another record.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where we're at right now. And it's a grassroots effort. It is not being funded by some, major corporation or whatever. It's happening locally. The legwork, getting out on the ground, getting signatures, having dialogue with people, having meetings, and using the social media where we can that still allows us to do that. All those things that are happening for a reason. And it's happening because the bear has woken up.
Yes. And folks, you need to go to the Red, White, and Blueprint, the Red, White, and Blueprint. There's a documentary, Mountaintop Media, which we are representing here today. Wonderful, wonderful media company, new media company. Mm-hmm. Do the documentary. It's First Cabin. Amazing. Mm-hmm. But the important thing is it talks about local government. The thing we have to do to gain back the liberty in our country, and remember, this isn't a revolution. We keep hearing, we need to revolt. No, we don't need to revolt. We need to restore.
Restore.
We have God-given rights protected by the Constitution of the United States, and frankly, protected by the Constitution for the most part of California. We have those rights. Those are God-given rights, and we need to restore those rights. We've lost them. And this is a question you might want to ask yourself. Name one thing, whether it's your toys that your kids play with, the light bulb that you use, the towel you use, the soap you use, the water you drink, the food you eat. Name one thing that the federal government or the state government doesn't have control of or is attempting control. I had one person say to me, well, my faith in Jesus Christ. I said, really? I go, was your church open during COVID? Oh, it wasn't?
And are they still requiring masks now that they may be open?
And are they?
That's the question.
That's the question. So, really and truly, we have to start looking that if we haven't lost all of it, we are on the verge of losing all of it.
Right.
But
and kind of just a quick thing, just to go back to the church thing. People within the church community and the leaders of the churches, whether it's the pastors or the boards, elders, what have you, they're fearful that they're going to lose their 501c3. The first church that loses their 501c3 in the country is going to be the martyr for all the churches. You don't think that's going to be powerful? There hasn't been a church to lose their 501c3 in the country. So why not be the first? It was a Black Robe Brigade that got the revolution going and supported it and did the running and did the secret passing and all the other things, munitions and housed people and fed people and did all that when we had our Civil War. It was a Black Robe Brigade that was working on that.
that's right.
What are they doing today?
Well, they're worried about their 501c3.
They are worried about their 501c3 for their tax exemption.
And another person you may want to listen to is a young lady named Chris Ann Hall and her husband, J.C. Hall. Amazing, amazing people. Chris Ann, in my opinion, is the foremost expert on the Constitution.
Absolutely.
She's a constitutional attorney, but she also is a constitutional historian. There's a big difference between a constitutional attorney who just studies constitutional law rather than somebody who knows the Constitution inside out, upside down, and backwards,
And knows
which
how
she
to
does,
use
and
it.
knows how to use it.
Yes.
It's
the rule book by which we are governed, and we allow ourselves to be governed. And she knows how to navigate those waters. And she's been very helpful for the state of Jefferson.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
helped us with our Constitution. That'll be another episode.
Yeah, she helped us to keep ourselves out of trouble.
And when you look at this, her husband, J.C., was a pastor, missionary, you name it. I mean, she talks about the lily-livered pastors.
Yep.
And,
That's a quote from
that's
her.
a quote from her.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with her.
Yeah, I agree with her too.
Maybe she agrees with Roosevelt.
Never know.
Pastors don't have time either.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we get to a point where it's sort of like, well, let's just let's just let God handle it. Well, let's just let the government handle it. I haven't got time for that.
Yeah.
Well, while we have been sleeping, and while we have not had time or been responsible, and not followed what Thomas Jefferson said, and that is that liberty, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance, we've let our government go. And it's our government. And right now there's a lot of people waking up. You hope this doesn't go to self-help.
Right.
You hope that it doesn't go to a point where we have to stand up. But there are millions and millions and millions of people who own millions of guns and have millions of rounds of ammunition.
I'd say trillions of rounds.
I'd say trillions, and I wouldn't,
Yeah.
and I think that, and again, this is not an advocation for self-help.
No.
What it is it's a fact. The thing is that the American people, they're trying to disarm us. They have tried to, as in Germany, etc. And I stop and think about, when I think about, and this is my last word on the pastors anyway, I stop and think about those pastors and parsons and priests in Germany. And in those areas, they could smell the dead bodies of the Jews, the burning, the gas chambers, the stench of death. Where were they? Where were they? You know, it's gotten to a point where, you know, we have to be politically correct. Well, I call bullshit. We aren't going to be politically correct here. We're gonna say it how it is, and yeah, a lot of it is our opinion, but we're gonna also ask for thank you there, partner. Good job. I can hear you, but no one else can. You know, yeah, we definitely, you'd be a good interview. You know that? You would, because you know, you're a man of few words. Just thumbs up and smiling. Yep, that's him. So I think what we want to do here in closing is let you folks know there'll be a lot of topics we'll have. The next program we have will be a simple topic. We'll be talking about basically the Constitution and how we can use that. But the real quest we have is not just telling you about the problems, but solutions.
Right.
And we will have a phone number to call in. We will have a chat room. We're going to make sure that your voice is being heard. We want to hear what you have to say.
Right.
If you have a solution or you have an idea or your county is doing something like that great county in Georgia where they sent 1,100 people to that school board meeting and got 3 of those people fired and I think a couple arrested, kind of love it. Because it's not time to sue these politicians who break the law.
Start arresting.
Start arresting.
Yeah. And use the law as written to support your cause.
Eli's nodding his head. We must be saying something right. Yeah, he's nodding his head. Now he's giving us the sign here. He's giving us a wave here.
We also want to say that you can also go to soj51.org, our website, and look up and get some information there. And you can get some, you can enroll in there and you can ask questions if you like, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Because this, again, is grassroots. There's nobody paid sitting there watching everything. We do it as we can.
Yep. So with that, we just want to wish everyone well. Yeah. We hope you enjoyed this. We hope that it was enlightening for you. We hope we can help. But most importantly,
we hope you come back.
Yeah. And most importantly, we want to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely.
That's the most important thing here. I mean, that's vital because it's what your skin in the game is that counts.
Absolutely.
What you want for your kids and your grandkids.
We all have skin in the game. You just got to figure out where it is and what line in the sand that's drawn. What's not going to happen for you personally? Shasta
County had to use the recall.
Mm-hmm.
Only 31 of the 50 states have a mechanism to recall local officials. That's a very important thing to understand.
That was one of the things California did right when they created their Constitution.
Yes, sir, that is.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, too, that we have a recall because multiple groups came together. It wasn't just one group saying, hey, we're going to do a recall. It was multiple groups coming together. And that's what has to happen. So you get multiple groups together, figure out what's going to happen, move forward.
And cross-pollinate with people.
Yep.
Make sure that you're talking with your friends, your neighbors. And again, what we're looking for is solutions here. One solution is a recall.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably your last-ditch effort right there.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that the recall we have done in Shasta County has gone viral.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that the Shasta County recall will have success either way.
Yep.
Because tyranny will not win out over righteousness.
Amen.
Yes, there is a pause. I'm trying to get the attention of Eli in there. Hey, buddy. Oh, okay, that's cool. We just got waited. It was 5 minutes.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, I thought, okay. It's different than when on the radio station.
Yeah.
We're used to the radio thing, so.
Yeah. Well, Eli doesn't dance either.
Yeah, he does.
We don't have music. Oh, wait. He dances next week.
There you go.
Yeah, because next week he'll be able to dance.
Okay.
And we'll be able to communicate. Right, Eli?
There you go.
Yeah, see?
All right.
There we go.
So then, with the people, all of us, we the people, standing up for what's right, moving forward to protect our own, to protect ourselves first and foremost so we can protect others, and to move forward and to hold those accountable that are not doing what they were elected to do. If they're abusing the power for their own financial gain, their own political gain, for whatever gain they deem necessary personally, it needs to be addressed. And you have to look at it individually for yourself, but also for that individual who is elected into those positions. And so you have to look and see what they're doing. Watch their voting record. Listen to what they say when they vote certain ways. Watch what they do. All those documents are public record. Do your homework. Do your research. Find out why they voted the way they voted. And then see how much money is truly being spent in your county on frivolous things. Watch how your budgets blow up. Our budget here locally went from $300 million to over $600 million in a very short period of time, and we only have like another 5 to 10,000 people in the county.
Another 10,000 people, so it doubled it with only 10,000 more residents.
Right. So why?
Why?
Where'd
it go?
Happen? Yeah. Now, are you top heavy is on administration and whatever in your staffing elements of your county? You have to look at those things. You have to wonder why the money is so great, and then have they had an audit? And I don't mean by your auditor team in your county. Have they had a forensic audit? That's what we're asking for. And once we get this new board on here in Shasta County, and specifically, once the recall's done and the vote and election is done, and we get new board members in there, we're going to require forensic audit on every single department within the county.
And
people
also,
are going to scream and cry and say, "Hey, that's costing money." No more than we're already spending. It needs to be done so the new board members can know exactly what they're dealing with.
and the new budget should start at zero.
Yeah, it should always be zeroed out.
Not in a position of where you're saying, okay, well, we have this much
Spend
money.
all this, now I have to spend more.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. That's not how, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, baseline budget. Yeah, we need to do that and get back to that, because you even ask the board members what's in the budget. They don't know. Why? Oh, because they let staff do it and they sign off on it.
A ripple effect. We let government do it.
Yeah.
We let somebody else do it.
Bureaucrats within the county who've
Yes.
been hired in, and it just it makes me nauseous when I think about it, because I think about how much tax money I pay. You know, I pay personal property tax, and I pay all the taxes
Sure.
like all the other citizens here locally, consumer tax, whatever. It's frustrating to know, you think about, okay, what you spend over the course of the year, and then I just do a rough guesstimate on taxes. Like, holy smoke, I spend a lot, I do. I mean, like a lot of other people, and I know that other people spend far more than I do for various reasons, businesses, whatever. But all that goes into the coffers here in the county. Why are they not being responsible with it?
Yeah.
It bothers me to the core, because I have to be responsible for my checking account at home, my savings account. I have to be responsible for that. It's up to me and to me only.
Yeah.
And if I fall short, then I have to figure out how to fix that. But the board doesn't seem to want to look at it that way. And it's very frustrating, because they had one vote when they decided to just vote it in, just say vote as approved.
The budget?
Yes,
Yeah.
on the budget, yeah. They didn't spend any time on it. And my
10
understanding,
minutes.
my understanding is they used to, not these particular people, but people that were on the board in the past, used to spend days on it, going through line item by line item. Do you keep it? Do you toss it? Do you increase it? Do you decrease it? That's what you're supposed to do. So you would know for each department, and then collectively as the county, you would know where you were financially. And they don't do that now. I bet if you ask any one of them, they wouldn't know.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to have, is accountability of the people that we elect. Now, at a county, there's no excuse.
Right.
You have a representation ratio that does certainly make sense, and a representation ratio which is reasonable. So when you have that,
Well, for our county, because it's about 1 to 20,000. No, it's more than that. It's 1 to 25 or something like that. I can't remember. Because we're 180,000, so it'd be more than that. It'd be 1 to almost
30.
1 to 30.
Yeah.
1 to 30.
the difference is, though, is that the supervisors do have control over a lot of different things with their departments. And the challenge is that the departments and the department heads, as Wynn was saying, there's no accountability to the public, because the jurisdiction of the supervisors that the supervisors have over them to hire and fire, then they can control anything. I heard one supervisor say this at one point. He said, well, this guy really isn't doing the job, but it's so hard to get another one to train. So,
Really?
I mean, when you
he's
stop
not
and think
doing the
about the
job.
laziness of all of that.
So if he's not doing the job and you don't want to be bothered to hire somebody to do the job, then you should be removed from your job.
Yes.
Point blank, you're not representing your constituents that elected you into that position for your district, but the constituency of the entire county.
Yes.
So therefore, you should have your happy fanny out the door
Yes.
and get somebody in there that's willing to do the job to hold not only themselves accountable as that elected official, but also the body of the board accountable and the staff members.
Yes.
And even some of those staff members are elected positions. Like in our county and most California counties, you have the assessor recorder. You have the registrar of voters. Those are elected positions. And people need to remember that. If you're not happy with those positions, then you need to deal with that. Same with the judges. There are 15 constitutional positions within the county of Shasta that are elected. The DA is another one. So those are the kind of things that you have to look at.
We get started on that.
You go through all of those and you figure out just because they're there doesn't mean they deserve to be there. So you need to figure out as a well-versed individual on your county who's going to stay and how you vote for them.
Well, we're getting the high sign here. It looks like this first episode is about come to an end.
Okay.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
And folks, we have just one thing to say, and that is time has come.
For 51.
Let's get it done.
Amen.
Hey, CA, come out and play. Have you seen the bill we all have to pay? It's not our bill, we had no say. You don't serve us, you serve LA. The time has come for 51 in a Jefferson state of mind. You don't know us, you have no clue, and still you're telling us what to do. We don't know you or what you face. It's time to start a brand new state. The time has come for 51 in a Jefferson state of mind. Jefferson state of mind. Cardinal lessons we all learn through time. And to my new state, I will always be true. She's gonna shine in the red, white, and blue. It's really better off this way. The welfare you won't have to pay. You keep your royal pedigree. All we're asking is set us free. The time has come for 51 in a Jefferson state of mind. And in the end, it's very clear, anything that we hold dear will never see the light of day. With California run this way, the time has come for 51. The time has come for 51. The time has come for 51 in a Jefferson state of mind. In a Jefferson state of mind. I'm in my Jefferson state